HP's HyperX Omen 15 is one of the coolest and quietest gaming laptops I've ever tested. But as always, there's a catch. I'm not going to make you wait, but performance suffers as a result. So let's find out if this trade-off is worth it in this review. The Omen 15 comes in HP's Shadow Black aluminum finish. Overall, build quality feels okay for a mostly plastic laptop. There's some flex if you're pushing down on it hard, but it feels fine during normal use. It's easy to open without the front lifting up, and the hinges feel smooth. But don't push the lid back too far. As we can see, this causes some strain and flex to the chassis. It does well at hiding fingerprints for a black laptop, and they're easy to clean with a microfiber cloth. Despite being a smaller 15-inch size, the Omen 15 is not a thin laptop, but it's not massive either, and similar to Lenovo's Lock or their lower tier Victus 15. The laptop by itself weighs in at 5 pounds or 2.3 kilos, increasing to about 6.4 pounds or 2.9 kilos with the 200-watt charger included. It's around the middle of the pack compared to other 15 to 16-inch gaming laptops we've tested. Not quite as light as Gigabyte's X16 or Acer's Nitro, but more portable than Lenovo's Lock or HP's older Omen 16 and Victus. The Omen 15 actually moves down a few positions if we include its charger in the total weight, as its 200-watt brick is on the smaller side, and I suspect this is what causes us some problems later. My Omen 15 has Intel's latest 386H Panther Lake processor, Nvidia's RTX 5070 laptop GPU, 16 gigs of RAM, and a 15.3-inch OLED screen. But there are a crazy amount of configurations available with all sorts of different specs. We're currently tracking the prices of 14 Omen 15 configurations in the US right now. You can check this page with the link below to see if there's a good sale, and if there's not, just set your price target and we'll email you when it drops so you don't miss a sale. The keyboard has 4 zones of RGB backlighting, though one of the zones is the QWER ASDF keys. How else would you know it's a gaming laptop? All keys and secondary functions get lit up, and you can use the F9 shortcut to adjust the brightness between 2 levels or turn it off, or the function plus spacebar shortcut to cycle through 9 built-in effects. There's more customization available through the lighting section of HP's Omen Gaming Hub software, which is the control panel for the laptop. The layout of the keyboard feels a bit squashed, with a smaller right shift and 0 numpad keys. My partner noted she regularly kept pressing numlock instead of backspace, and the font on the keys is more on the gamery side, but the keyboard feels okay to type on with a lightly clicky feel. The plastic touchpad feels smooth and responsive. It does the job. Port selection is basic, but again, it gets the job done. I like that most ports are right at the back, so cables are less likely to get in the way. But only one Type-C and no Thunderbolt may be a limit for some. The display outputs offer a mix for connecting to discrete or integrated graphics. There's no muck switch, so it's not possible to change this behavior. So if you need Type-C connecting directly to the DGPU for VR, this laptop is not for you. Getting inside was annoying. There's only 5 Phillips head screws, with the one up the back in the middle being longer than the rest. But the 2 in the rear corners are covered by these annoying rubber covers for some reason. The screw down the front on the left doesn't come out of the panel and helps lift it up, but I still had a tough time opening it, even with pry tools. I'll leave a link to these ones I use below. Once inside, we've got the battery down the front, 2 RAM slots just above near the middle, a spare M.2 storage slot on the right, the installed M.2 SSD on the left, and the Wi-Fi card just below that. I'm glad to see that HP isn't sticking the Wi-Fi card under the cooler anymore, but I wasn't able to fit my 4TB SSD with chips on both sides into either of the M.2 storage slots. I like that HP lets you choose how many sticks of RAM you want when ordering. For example, you can get 160 16 gig stick if you plan on upgrading later, or you can spend $10 more to get 2 8 gig sticks, which will perform a bit better in games compared to one single 16 gig stick. RAM is expensive, so it's good to have these options. I've given the Omen 15 a relatively low upgrade score due to the 2 M.2 slots not fitting larger drives, and it being difficult to open. Speeds from the installed 1TB PCIe Gen 4 SSD were alright, but depending on the version of Omen you're configuring, you might have the option to spend more for a faster Gen 5 drive. Wi-Fi performance wasn't amazing, on the lower side as far as Wi-Fi 7 goes, but MediaTek cards tend to not have as much raw throughput as the Intel options we've tested. While we're talking about the internals, I need to tell you about a serious issue. When I had this laptop with its bottom panel off on this desk so I could film the insides like I always do, it was just sitting there doing absolutely nothing when suddenly there was a spark and some smoke from around the area where the second empty M.2 storage slot is. Of course, this happened while I wasn't recording and was in between moving the camera between shots, so I've got no evidence of this. And just visually, I can't see any damage to the board either. And I hadn't put anything on the board or really done anything at all at that point. It was just sitting there, so it felt really random. As far as I can tell, the laptop is still working perfectly fine. Though fortunately, we had already collected all of our test data before I took the laptop in for filming. Now, I've got no idea if this is just a one-off issue with my unit, or if maybe there might be some common failure with this series of laptop. That's not something I can say. But it's the first time I've had anything like this happen in 300 plus laptop reviews, so it was worth mentioning. There are down-firing speakers down the front on the left and right sides. They sound clear, but they're tinny and high-pitched without much bass, and some wrist-rest vibration at higher volume. Not terrible for a gaming laptop, but not great either. The Latencymon results weren't great either in our 5-minute idle test. The Omen is powered by a 4-cell 70Wh battery. By default, when you unplug the laptop's charger, nothing happens. If you manually change to the Eco Performance profile, FPS in games gets limited to 60 through the Nvidia app, and the screen's refresh rate lowers to 60Hz, whether the charger is plugged in or not. The frame cap is removed and the refresh rate goes back up to max outside of Eco Mode. There is an option to make Eco Mode enable automatically when you unplug the charger, which will help increase battery life, but it's not on by default like it is for most other laptops. The HP app, which is separate from the Omen Gaming Hub software, lets you set the maximum charge level to 80%, which helps improve the longevity of the battery. The Omen Hub software also lets you disable the Nvidia graphics to help improve battery life. Battery life was quite good, lasting for over 9 hours in our YouTube video playback test, and almost 2 hours with a game running. It's not as good compared to other laptops we've tested that feature Intel's new 386H processor. Granted, most of those also have higher capacity batteries too. It lost 15% of its battery charge while asleep for 24 hours. But this isn't a fair comparison with the other laptops, as it depends on the size of the laptop's battery. Here's how much battery power was lost on average per hour, which is a fairer comparison. It's not a bad result, one of the better options. But of course, you could always hibernate instead of sleep if you're not using it for longer periods, which effectively lowers the drain rate to 0. Let's check out thermals next. The CPU and GPU are covered by a standard cooler with 2 fans and heat pipes shared between both. Air only gets exhausted out of the back of the laptop, so no hot air blowing on your mouse hand. The fans also push air towards the center, which these metal routing paths aim to redirect out the back. And this piece on the bottom panel attempts to stop the hot air flowing into the rest of the laptop. HP's Omen Gaming Hub software allows us to change between different performance modes, which from lowest to highest are Eco, Balanced, and Performance. There's no higher tier Unleashed mode that we saw in last year's Omen 16. Meanwhile, the product page for for this exact laptop I'm reviewing shows Unleashed mode with all the tuning sliders, but those aren't actually available in this laptop. Now, it does note for select product/SKU only, but given the Omen 15 seems to max out with the 5070 I've got, I find it hard to believe that any of the lower tier versions get access to this. Probably this just needs to be removed from the marketing. Anyway, you can set the fans to max speed in balanced or performance modes, but I couldn't see fan customization available. Performance mode applies this overclock to the GPU by default. You can customize the overclock, and I like that we're able to disable the default overclock entirely. Some laptops don't let you turn that off, which can cause problems if the overclock isn't stable in some games. HP's software has a fan cleaning button, which basically spins the fans backwards for a while to help remove any dust buildup. A unique feature that I haven't seen any other non-HP laptops implement, and I believe it happens automatically when the laptop isn't under load, so you don't have to manually run it. And while we're talking about the software experience, HP still has one of the most bloated feeling control panels. I don't know about you, but I just want to access my settings, not get promoted all this other garbage. The internal temperatures are fine at idle. The rest of the results are from combined CPU and GPU stress tests, which aim to represent a worst case full load scenario. But as far as gaming laptops go, these temps are what I would consider to be ice cold. Nowhere near thermal throttling at all. Running with the fans maxed out instead of auto lowered temps a bit more, but auto fans are cool enough, so there's no point making the laptop run louder, and that's why I didn't even bother testing with a cooling pad. In fact, just using a basic metal stand, linked below, lowered the temps the most, and no problem if you want to close the lid and dock the laptop either. The power limits make it clear why the temps are so cool. The Omen 15 is by no means a thin laptop, yet its CPU and GPU power are lower than what we've seen from thinner designs. This 5070 can run up to 85 watts with dynamic boost, so already well below Nvidia's max for this GPU, but it's even lower as we're seeing here with the CPU under load at the same time. Basically, the Omen 15 runs extremely cool, but the expense is lower power, which will reduce performance. Here's how an actual game performs with the different performance modes in use. The purple bars were tested with the screen's native resolution, while the red bars show DLSS upscaling on balanced to boost performance. Frame rates don't look that impressive because my Omen 15 has the highest screen option, and 2880 by 1800 is a lot of pixels to power. I'd absolutely recommend running at a lower 16:10 resolution to boost FPS. But even in Cyberpunk at ultra settings, we can almost get 60 FPS with DLSS in balanced mode. The CPU can use more power in a CPU-only workload, like Cinebench, where the GPU is idle. Performance in balanced modes don't really perform that differently, while Eco mode was significantly lower, as that's just the cost for a quieter machine. It's quite similar to other Intel 386H laptops that we've tested, with a 32% higher multi-core score compared to last year's AMD-based Omen 16, while their higher tier Omen Max 16 was 67% higher than the Omen 15. So there's quite a range of performance options available. Performance lowers if we unplug the charger and run on battery power, which is normal, but the Asus laptops that were performing closely with the charger connected are now a fair bit better on battery power, though the Omen was now outperforming MSI's far more expensive Stealth 16, whereas they were tied with the chargers connected. As for keyboard temps, most laptops I test are in the low 30 degrees Celsius range at idle, and the Omen is right in line with this and felt cool. It's only a little warmer with the stress test running in the lowest eco mode, but it still feels cool to the touch. Stepping up to the higher balanced mode isn't much different, as the fans start running faster and louder to compensate for the extra power and performance. Even the highest performance mode is still running cool. The keyboard is only a little above 30 degrees. There is a spot at the back that's a bit warmer, but you don't need to touch there. It is possible to lower temps a little extra by maxing out the fans, but like I said before, it's so cool that the extra fan noise isn't necessary. The hottest point of the keyboard is extremely cool compared to almost all other laptops tested. While that sounds sounds great, don't forget this is a result of lower power limits and reduced performance. So it's great if you're someone that prioritizes a cooler and quieter laptop over maximizing FPS. But just how loud do those fans get? Let's have a listen. Maxing the fans out in performance mode was around 26% louder than simply running with the fan set to auto, and considering the laptop was cool in auto mode, there's really no need for max fans. Performance mode has a perceived loudness level 16% higher than balanced mode, so less of a difference, but balanced mode doesn't offer too much less performance with a game running, so it may be a better sweet spot. The thing is, the Omen 15 is already one of the quietest laptops when under heavy load in performance mode, so unless you're sensitive to fan noise, I think it'll be fine to get the most performance out of the laptop and run it in performance mode. This is a very impressive result, but as we'll see in the upcoming game benchmarks, the lower GPU power limit means it's possible for lower tier RTX 5060 laptops to beat it. The Omen 15 is available with 3 different screen options. Mine has the 2880 by 1800 120Hz OLED panel, but honestly, the middle option is a much better sweet spot if you're not tied to OLED. It's $120 cheaper, still relatively bright, claims to have decent color gamut, and the slightly lower resolution will make games a little easier to run. If you can afford it, I think the $60 upgrade over the dimmer, lower color gamut base level panel is worth it, given the screen is the thing you're literally going to be staring at for years. As for the OLED panel our model came with, colors and contrast are excellent. The screen gets fairly bright for an OLED 2 at around 500 nits. It seems like many OLED panels this year are moving up from 400 to 500 nits, and more brightness range is always welcome. But running an OLED at higher brightness increases the concern for long-term burn-in, and we didn't find any software options for burn-in mitigation. I'd be extremely surprised if there weren't some mitigations built in by default, but giving us the choice and visibility over the options, like most other laptops do, is preferable. Other negatives of OLED panels include screen flicker due to the way they control brightness. It's not something you can see, but some people are more sensitive to others and may experience eye strain or headaches after longer use. The OLED screen is also glossy, so reflections show up easily if you're in a bright environment. And as always with OLED panels, screen response time is super fast, with it only taking about half a millisecond for the screen's pixels to update. There's not really any practical difference between all of the OLED laptops we've tested. They're all fast and great for gaming on. Total system latency is the amount of time between a mouse click and when a gunshot fire appears on screen in Counter-Strike 2. It's basically as fast as HP's smaller Omen 14 and Gigabyte's X16, and you'll see this more in the upcoming game benchmarks, but it's due to the RTX 5070's lower GPU power limit. Less GPU power means lower FPS, which increases latency, but ultimately, this is still a decent result for gaming. The Omen 15 does not have a muck switch, which means no advanced Optimus or G-Sync. The only way to bypass the integrated graphics and get an FPS boost in games is by connecting a monitor to the HDMI port. On the one hand, that's not great for a gaming laptop when most of the competition offers these features. But on the other hand, outside of esports games, the muck switch doesn't matter as much as it used to since Microsoft's Queso update. There is at least adaptive sync from their integrated graphics, so no screen tearing within this refresh range. There's a 1080p camera above the screen in the middle. It has IR for Windows Hello Face Unlock, and here's how it sounds while typing on the keyboard. But how well does HP's I mean, HyperX's Omen 15 perform in games. We've tested it with these settings to find out. In Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p, the Omen was performing about the same as Gigabyte's Aero, which also has a power-limited RTX 5070. Even HP's Omen 16 from last year with the lower-tier 5060 performs better than this year's 5070 Omen 15, due to the GPU power difference. It's a similar deal at 1440p too, where a number of lower-tier 5060 laptops are outperforming the Omen 15 due to having higher GPU power limits, including HP's own Omen 16. At least the Omen 15 performs better than their smaller Omen 14. The Omen 15 ran a bit better relative to the same selection of laptops in Alan Wake 2. At 1080p, it's now at least always ahead of the lower-tier 5060s, with better FPS in games possible from other laptops that have the exact same GPU inside, but with higher GPU power limits. And again, same deal at the higher 1440p resolution. Look, I know Razer's Blade 14 costs way more than the Omen, but it's still kinda crazy when you consider how much smaller and thinner the blade is. Yet it easily outperforms the bigger Omen. A perfect example of why GPU power matters. Black Myth Wukong still ran above 60 FPS at 1080p high settings, but it's still quite similar when compared to other lower tier 5060 laptops. And again, same deal at 1440p, though the frame rate is lower as this resolution is more intensive. But that's where features like DLSS upscaling help. Playing with ray tracing and DLSS enabled doesn't change much. There are slightly fewer cases where lower tier 5060s beat the 5070 Omen, presumably as RT is more GPU intensive, but you could disable RT and just use DLSS to hit more FPS than this. We only test with RT levels that actually improve visuals, so it is possible to get similar performance and a nicer looking game. Although my Omen came with the 8GB 5070, there are some configurations with the newer 12GB version, though it seems less common, but that would offer better longevity in future games. These results are from my upcoming 8GB vs 12GB 5070 comparison, and in games that need more VRAM like this, the difference can be huge. Here are the 3D Mark results. Content creator results were fine, though the smaller Omen Transcend 14 didn't perform too differently, so the bigger 15-inch size doesn't offer that much extra performance. Combined with the nice looking OLED screen, the Omen would be nice for creators, as long as you don't need an SD card slot. There's not too much customization available through the BIOS compared to other brands like MSI or Lenovo. Linux support was excellent. Everything that I tested worked in the latest Ubuntu. You can find the best price on the Omen 15 with the link below the video. That takes you to our dedicated Omen 15 page on the gaminglaptop.deal site, where you can see every configuration we're tracking. You can view price history across multiple retailers to see if now is actually a good time to buy, or if the price is still too high. Just set your price target and we'll email you when it drops so you don't miss a sale. At the time of recording in mid-August though, there aren't any amazing Omen deals right now. The configuration I've tested, but with double the RAM, is currently out of stock, but even its best sale price so far is too high for a 5070 laptop. But HP are known for running some pretty crazy sales in the past, and with Black Friday coming up, it could be worth the wait. So definitely set alerts for the configs you're interested in on the gaminglaptop.deal's website. But is the Omen 15 even worth buying? Let's summarize the good and the bad to find out. Starting with the good, there's lots of customization on offer. We've got Intel and AMD processors from current and previous generations if you want to save money, different GPU options, PCIe Gen 4 or Gen 5 SSD choice, different screen options, and you can even select if you want 1 or 2 sticks of RAM. It's great in terms of thermals, as it runs very cool and quiet compared to other laptops. Battery life is good, and if you upgrade to the OLED screen that we've tested, it looks great. As for the bad, it's missing premium gaming features like a MUX switch, advanced Optimus, and G-Sync, which competitors like Lenovo's lower tier lock have. A compromise of the good thermals is that there's less GPU power, which means less FPS in games, to the point where cheaper 5060 laptops can beat it. It can't fit bigger SSDs with chips on both sides, performance, and mine had some magic smoke around this area. That it's impossible to say if that's just a one-off with my test unit. Those were the major positives and negatives that I saw. Everything else was just kind of fine. It's not a bad laptop, but personally, I'd be after something with a bit more performance. If I'm paying for a 5070, I don't want a 5060 that costs less money to run better. Unless, of course, this was significantly cheaper. Then it would make more sense. If you get a more powerful laptop, in most cases, depending on what's available in software, you'll be able to dial down the power limits and change the fan speeds anyway. So in many cases, you'll still be able to run the laptop cooler and quieter. But you'll also have the option of cranking the power up and getting good performance should you want it. And personally, I prefer having more options than being forced one way or the other. I'd say the main alternatives to the Omen 15 would be ASUS's TUF F16 or Lenovo's Legion 5. Both of those are great, and in my opinion, better gaming laptop options than this one. So I'll see you in one of those videos next.